Snuck. Yes. Well, I don't know. I don't know who your Patrick is. This is New York Patrick.
Ah.
I just snuck and just joined you. So I'm listening because I'm in the middle of writing a lot of stuff.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
always
Are you doing
on
good?
your. Yeah, I can't complain, sir. Can't complain at all.
Good, good. But just to let you know, I don't know if you guys heard. You guys remember Raymond Ballantyne's father?
I'm not sure
You know the
who he
Ballantyne.
is, but I know who is Raymond.
You
I
know
know who is
Raymond
Raymond.
and Ord and Bob and
Yeah, I know.
yeah, their pops died this
Yeah, I
morning.
know them.
Okay. Yeah. Bali ran the he actually ran the Caribbean Cup that we used to have in Brooklyn, the famous Caribbean Cup tournament, you know, during the summertime. So he passed
Uh-huh.
away this morning. I'm sure some people may know. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's not good news, bad news.
Condolences, condolences.
Yes, because he was a soccer guy. I mean, he ran the program here, and a lot of the guys who came up from home played in that league. A lot of guys. Well, the
Yeah,
guys who
man.
were good and could make it. Some guys came and couldn't make it, like someone I'm probably talking to.
Yeah.
You didn't hear that, huh?
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah. So that's the story.
Hmm. Let me shout you back now. I'm about to start my session now. Yeah. Same. You had the same link as. All right. Let me. Yeah, the same one. Yeah. All right. All right. Okay. Yeah, folks. For some strange reason, I'm getting a lot of calls now. Interesting. All right. So let me try and get this started now. Akeem, give me the go ahead, please. Let me know. Live. Okay. Let me just send this off here. Um, okay. All right, so let's share the screen. Hopefully, Mr. Patrick could expound on some of these. Vicky, I don't know if you would have some ideas on these as well. It's an interesting topic, interesting doing some research on it. Um, so I hope we could share a bit more this evening as it regards to that. We just, yeah, okay, all right. Share screen. Please tell me when you can see my screen, please. Give me a heads up.
Yep, it's shared.
Okay. Right. Right. All right. So good night again, everyone. Welcome to another session with the LFC with the game. Um, Today we're gonna look at trends. I just happened. Just happened. Okay. We're gonna look at trends in football from basically 100 years ago. So, but no, we're not gonna go all the way in depth in what took place way back when, but we'll focus closer to 90 in the 1990s all the way up to now. This would be a hopefully a two-part series. So we're looking at now from let's say about 1999, from about 1990 or 1980 up until 2006, and then the next one would cover basically from 2006 until present day. So that's the concept behind it. So I'm gonna repeat this one. Really fell in love with this one last week. All right, so I'm gonna bring it back again. So we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence. So if we want to be excellent, then it's not an act, but a habit. And this came from Aristotle. All right, so our feature today, in terms of our player of the week, it's Mr. Burton Ford. So I'll just let this run. Wait a minute. I think I didn't. Let me just. Where did it go? Where did it go? I have Mr. Cook joining. Share the screen again. I didn't share audio. All right. So again, should be able to hear your audio now. All right. Let me see. Good. No. So player of the week is Mr. Burton Ford, and he is from Beckway. All right.
National pride. Genuine passion. The reason we played the game. This is football in Vincy as we knew it.
Welcome to our third feature in the series National Pride, Genuine Passion, the reason we played the game. I'm Roxel John. This week we feature defender Burton Ford.
As a youth growing up, I learned to play football. I love football. There's nothing you could get me to besides play football. I grew up close to the beach, so every evening after school, a group of us would be on the beach playing football every day. And to the fourth year in high school, I started playing for the senior team right up to Form 5. So it's a passion, it's what, you know. In 1994, I made my first appearance for national. The kind of passion I had for the game is like, every day I have to travel from Beckway, catch a boat 2 o'clock, go to up train, catch a bus to Warrensville every day, train, come back here, catch a boat. 7 o'clock in the night, come back, and I love representing my country. My country come first in everything. So if I had any choice of doing anything, and then I had to choose between football and whatever, football was always the choice I chose. A couple years I worked in Mustique, and then I couldn't get to travel to Kingston to train with team. So I had to be every day I'd be training in Mustique, playing the ball. And when it comes for like weekend, when we have games, I'll come home. I'll even ask my brother and my father to come up and to Mustique with their speedboat, transport me back to Beckway, and I'll catch a boat from Beckway straight to Symington, and then meet up with the rest guys, camp or whatever. So it's a joy. It's my joy of playing the game. I really enjoy it. I love the game so much. The passion was so high for the game that the last season I played, it was waterlogged. I can remember that goal. And the games, I had to band my knees, strap it up in the final game just to finish the game with all the pain. That's what gave me the kind of love and passion I have for the game, you know. Unfortunately, I didn't have the chance of going overseas, so still have the love for the game. So my encouragement to the youth them is that they have lots of opportunities now, and all they need to do is school, do the schoolwork, books first, and then you do your playing. Make sure you enjoy what you do, love what you do. And if you love what you do, you will really enjoy it.
National pride, genuine passion. The reason we played the game. This is football in Vincy as we knew it.
All right, so that's our own Burton Ford, player of the week. All right, so for today's session, our objectives are we're going to analyze elite football between 1940 until 2007, impact on practice and training for players, and the profile of an elite player. All right, so again, it's a two-part series. Next week we'll feature the advances from 2008 up until present day. All right, so trends. The game is going to become faster with less space and less time. And this was a quote made in 1986 by Gab Roberts. Players have to react faster. Every movement, every action happens faster. Think faster, act faster. This is the football of the future, and this quote was made in 1996 by Vali Lobandowski. The evolution of football essentially involves three elements: speed, space, and technical and physical strength. Again, you see the date on that one again. In 10 years, the game will move on. It will be faster, stronger, and played at a higher pace with more ingenious tactics. And this is Petr Cech in 2007. So even back then, things that we consider are new to us or evolutions in the game, they were seeing it basically already. From 1986 all the way up to 2007, these quotes were being made, even though we think they are ingenious things that are happening now. But you would also see that there were some slight changes again to the game as we progress. All right. Now, what the focus was when these gentlemen were speaking is speed of action. So everything, they were looking the fact that the physical side, faster the technical side will get fast, and the tactical side will get fast. Everything, or the speed of action, basically get faster. Right? Now they looked at the relationship between space and time. And the key element of modern football back in that time was space. Make use of space, make use and close down space. They were looking at width and depth, reduce the distance between the lines. So that's how they were looking at space basically. In terms of time, be faster than the regrouping of the defense retreat. All right. And the timing they were looking at was you were trying to get back within 5 to 6 seconds. So even back in before 2007, the consideration was modern football was on its way to look at how to manage space and time. So how do we manage the width and depth of everything that's happening? So here's an example here. Obviously, if you recognize the team in blue, they are very narrow and they are trying to consider space in their defensive. And in the inverse, the blue team, you could see they have their width and depth, meaning they are wide and long. So they are trying to how to manage the space both in attacking sense and the defensive sense. But what we could also recognize with this pass is because this player has more space and time, they're able to make a long pass or a penetrating pass. So obviously the intent of what they were trying to say is to reduce this space so that this pass cannot be played. And that's the context. And when we regroup or we lose possession of the ball, we have a maximum of 5 to 6 seconds to make sure we're in the best defensive shape possible or attacking possible. All right, so other trends. The most important moment in the game today is when the ball is won or lost, and this word was said by Gerard Houllier. He was basically considering transition, and when he made that quote, he was basically running Liverpool team, and we remember his teams in Liverpool how they dominated Europe, and basically what it is basically. His focus was never just only on having possession or defending. It was a moment in between losing the ball, how quickly they could get back into shape and how quickly they could restrict or how quickly they could penetrate to gain an advantage. Now, in terms of goal scoring, and we're looking at 2006 here, in open play and in set pieces, what we recognize is that in both instances, this is a typographical error here. Yes, this is good. So what you recognize is that roughly about 30% of the goals are scored in set pieces in both Champion League and in the World Cup. And obviously, in open play, meaning everything other than set plays, there's about 70% of goals scored. This obviously would have an impact on how you play. So teams generally, some teams, if we could think about Germany back in the day, in these World Cups and Italy as well, their focus was more on England to some extent. Their focus was on long throws and corners as well as other set pieces to put the ball in the box and hopefully try to score. So this had an impact in the game in the context that teams were focusing on how to use set plays to execute their goals, because 30% is a lot. All right, so again, 30% was scored, and this is basically a breakdown here. So you had 16, then about penalties. So we had another for direct free kicks, we had 15. For indirect free kicks, we had roughly about 13, and corner kicks 13. So obviously, this is a way of getting your goals. So obviously, as a coach, as a team, the focus around those times was to try to be as effective as possible as it relates to set pieces. A lot of the times, the teams which were not very skillful, quote unquote, skillful, or had a lot of technical players, use this as their means of trying to win games. It is essential to practice set pieces from both a technical and a tactical perspective. Free kick specialists are vital. The modern ball has also had an impact on set pieces. So obviously, we recognize that the ball as well had started to change, and this may have influenced the amount of goals that started to score, because doing my research and listening to persons, the balls of yesterday were very heavy and they really didn't do much. So the keepers were able to control them a lot easier. Now, when you drive the ball, it gives you different knuckle movements, and hence more goals are being scored. And it is equally important to have a specialist, someone to deliver these free kicks or penalties or corners, which are a means of getting goals. So when we look at other trends in terms of open play, we're talking about basically the game itself, so control, build up, attack, or accelerated attack. So this is not the counter attack context. It's we're building up from the back, we're playing out from the back, and how do we change the tempo in terms of accelerating the attack. That's what we're looking at here. So what usually happens is 3 to 4 control, build up, attack pass before you start one attack. For one attack, accelerated attack. So what it's trying to say basically is you build up regularly at a given pace, but for every 3 to 4 of those you had one which was very quick. So we could see that there was a variation in the tempo. This would also have impact in terms of how you train a team. So obviously, you can't have teams constantly having accelerated attack over and over. And I think this is something we suffer from in St. Vincent, where our teams consistently want to play quickly all the time. And this in itself has an impact physically and even mentally on the players. So what they recognized was one of the better trends is basically you have 3 to 4 control build-ups, and then you had one, which was a quick accelerated one where you try to exploit the opponent as quickly as possible. 70% of goals scored from open play are the result of accelerated actions or counter-attack. So while we are saying that our build-up is generally 3 to 4 control build-up, what we recognized back then was that the one that you did, the accelerated attack, was basically a surprise, and most of the times the one that basically caused the goal most of the time. So it caused about 70%. 30% are the result of control build-up attack. So it's good to have the surprise play, because 70% of the time, once you change the tempo and the rhythm, you catch the team off guard, and obviously, as it says here, you score more goals during that particular period, rather than when you have a slow control build-up. A strong team has the capacity to alternate control build-up play with collective accelerated collective actions. So what this quote was basically saying is the better teams were able to switch and knowing when to be controlled and when to accelerate. All right, 70% of the shots came at the end of the sequence of 1 to 3 passes. So this is to re-emphasize the quick or the accelerated attack. When there was 1 or 2 or 3 passes and then you explored the goal, these were times when you had more opportunities of scoring. 90% of shots came at the end of the sequence of 6 to 7 passes. So again, once we go above 3 passes in the accelerated actions, is a 90% chance that you would have scored. So once you were able to do a quick attack with 6 or more passes or less, you are more likely to have an opportunity to shoot or to score. All right. Now, other trends that were looked at was the match. All right. What was recognized is that you had 100 to 120 attacking plays, of which 10 to 15 threats on goal, which is quite interesting. And maybe this is the reason why 3 to 6 clear goal scoring opportunities. So from a perspective of intent and from a perspective of efficiency, we were not very efficient in scoring because of the amount of threats that were created. Similarly, in a country like ours where we lack the potential or lack scoring ability, you could see where the need for us to create more attacking chance would be necessary, because it says here, for the elite, it took them 10 to 15 threats on goal to basically get 3 to 6 clear scoring opportunities. So for us, it's either we be more efficient than the ones we have, which would improve our level of winning, or we increase the probability of creating threats, meaning we are increase the amount of time we get to goal. Shots, 20 to 25 shots for matches for both teams. When you add up the amount of shots for both teams, this was basically what happened. So from a coaching perspective, if you're looking at from the defensive side, your task obviously would be to reduce these numbers. So in training, your intent is to your range is to basically get your team to recognize that we need to minimize the amount of chances, and this is the number that we're working on. So that in itself could be a performance goal for you and your team, rather than just looking at clean sheets and whatever else. Performance goal would be, can we reduce the amount of threats that they have on goal, and here are the statistics as it shows that you can actually use to be realistic. So it's not realistic to say they will not have any particular chance. Can we reduce them to having 2 clear goal scoring opportunities? And that would be an excellent performance based on what the statistics are showing. 1 goal from every 4 to 5 shots. Again, that ratio shows you this is the elite. It's interesting what the number would be here in St. Vincent. And it's something I really want to take up basically here, which is to start taking these kind of stats to kind of help our coaches and our players to improve. Set pieces again, 30% total goals scored. Forced goals scored. Once you score, well, the general thing is once you score in 70% wins, 70% draws, 8% defeat. So back in those times, once you score forced, the probability of winning the game is very high. One-on-one situation, the team that won most of the one-on-one situation, whether it was attacking or defending, or attack or defense, in the key areas, usually win the matches. So these were the statistics which I think coaches would have used in order to improve their team. So obviously the one-on-one, you had to make the players good one-on-one, whether it's on the attacking or the defensive side. You encourage the team to score first because 75% of the times you will win the game. You have to train your set pieces because 30% you're likely to score roughly about 30% of your goals across the season from set pieces. All right, and you need to increase or decrease, depending if you're attacking or defending, the amount of goal scoring opportunities that are possible. All right, so Alex Ferguson, we won all one-on-one situation. That's why we won the match. So even Sir Alex Ferguson reiterated this basic point. Once you win all the 1v1 duels, whether it's on a defensive or an attacking perspective, more than likely you're going to win the game. Control build up, not so we're looking at attack in terms of open play. So tactical situation, when the opposition defensive block is in position, so basically everybody is behind the ball, and your team has possession of the ball and everybody is behind the ball for the opponent team, which is what basically took place. So the objective would have been to make space or to play through balls. So that would obviously be the objective. How they looked at doing this was switch off play from one side to the other to create width. Collective control of the ball by multiple passes in order to create space in the middle of the pitch for a 1v2 or 2v1 or 2v3 breakthrough. So basically try to create overloads in the middle of the pitch by doing short passes. Switch off play out wide for a cross. Set up long-range shots and individual initiative and penetration. So here is a scenario here. So if you look at the red lines, the team, the opposition, they are in a defensive block. So everybody is behind the ball is here. So how they tried to do it was basically try to make a big switch to the opposite side to create width and shift the defense and have a crossing opportunity, or play through the middle and try to create overloads within the middle so that you can have two passes. So that's basically how they went about their stuff. I'll pause here for questions or comments. Anyone? All right, so we have a comment here by Mr. Debson Pukshan. One-on-one situation reflect the team's intensity, which usually shows how much you are up for the game. The energy usually has a positive result. I would agree with you on that. I'll reinforce it by saying the team who usually wins the first and second ball in every occasion and more aggressive to the ball are usually teams who will dominate the game. All right. There are no questions or other comments. We'll continue. Quick break. All right, so we're looking at what they consider a quick break. 40% of goals from open play were the result of a quick break. So the classic way of looking at it, the ball is played long to one or two attackers who are in large space and against two defenders. So this is the old English style where you just boot it up and the two attackers try to do their thing. So when we look at quick attack, we're not looking at transition into attack. We have possession on the ball, but we are penetrating quickly. We are being more direct towards getting to the goal. The collective, a group of players attack at pace with direct fluid combination. The example they're given here would be Wenger's Arsenal. That's our concept for the quick break. Whenever they pick it up from midfield, they tend to move very quickly towards the goal. So they are very slow up to the middle third, and then from the middle third, they accelerate the pace at which they try to penetrate. Solo and individual action, direct running with the ball, and solo finish. So basically, we could look at Italy in the context of Baggio. We could look at Maradona in this context. So they were able to receive the ball in certain spaces and mix some individual brilliance with a lot of pace, and were able to assist or finish the action. So this is what they were looking at in terms of quick break. So it's the change of pace or being more direct in your penetration. So they had three ways of basically trying to do that. And again, we looked at it from now the other way, from pressing. So regain the ball only by putting collective pressure on the opponents, which obviously, if you apply pressure quickly, you generally win the ball higher up the pitch. If you're higher up the pitch, you're able to play quicker because you're already in the attacking area, and more than likely you have an opportunity to score. The counter attack, the capacity to accelerate into attack as soon as the ball is regained. So we have just won the ball from the opponents. The force, what we're trying to do is to go forward as quickly as possible. It's not to make a sideways pass or a backward pass, but it's to penetrate as quickly as possible. The most important movement in the game today is when the ball is won or lost. Again, Gerard, here. Modern training. So what you're looking at is look for a long force pass. So if your force pass after winning the ball is long and penetrating or moving forward, obviously the team which would have been spread wide and trying to create depth would have fewer players in the defensive area. So you should have an advantage in that context. What would be the challenge? Anticipate. Yes, Depson, you could go ahead. Go ahead.
Some interesting points there. And I was looking at the first 4 rounds of the Premier League season for this year, the Vincentian Premier League. And comparing some of the statistics that we looked at, and they verify what you're saying. And one thing I would like to highlight is that the amount of balls that are a quick long pass resulting from, in most cases, a last ball in the midfield, and then that quick transition where the defense is out of position.
Yep.
And it really reflects that as coaches, particularly here in Simonson, we have a lot of work to do in terms of our transitioning from attack to defense in particular.
Yep, I agree with you. I agree with you on that. I really do agree with you because, as you said, from the attacking perspective, obviously it's a good thing that we're doing in the sense that we're trying to penetrate as quickly as possible and exploit the space. But I think when we are transitioning, as you say, we are not sure what needs to be done. A lot of the time, for example, rather than delaying the players, we are trying to press them. And by pressing them, we create the space behind, which allows for the attack. And even if the player does decide to delay, the other players are not sure where to go when a player is trying to delay another player. So as you said, we have some work to do. This is just to shed some light, and hopefully we could assist our coaches in improving in that context. Any other comments, anybody else? All right, so as I was saying, the capacity to accelerate into attack as soon as the ball is regained. So Mr. Holy said the most important moment in the game today is when the ball is won or lost. So it's what we do with it at that point. So modern training, you need to look for a long, fast pass. That's the context in which most teams are playing at that particular time. The challenge is anticipating the regrouping of the opponent defense. And that is what Mr. Cruikshank was alluding to there. If they're able to regroup quickly, do we stop the penetration and try to reset and play again, or do we still continue and lose possession, or do we finish the attack? That's basically where we're looking at now. And the objective obviously is to play the ball up front when possession is regained. So while this has its advantages, it is necessary to have the players and the tactics to execute it, because a lot of the times, if you look at our national team over the years, well, more recently, not this current crop, but let's say about 10 years ago, I think we were guilty of trying to penetrate too quickly and too often, and in that process, lost the ball, and we fell into the same trap, which was we had poor positioning in recovering in terms of defensive transition. And we gave up a lot of goals as a result. And as a result, I think that was it had a great impact on the team physically, which in turn would have meant that later on in the game, we had some issues in terms of fitness. Again,
Kian, could I just make a couple?
Yes.
Just a point.
Go ahead.
Could you hear
Go
me?
ahead, sir. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yes. Go ahead.
In terms of transition and penetration, I mean, your team has to be set up for that. You won't have penetration unless you have a target up front. So you've got to play to that target.
You have to have depth.
Once you win it, if you don't have a target, then you're trying to penetrate and the dribble. Okay?
Yes.
But well, no, well, when you said the man up top, well, target to play to. Otherwise, you can't get up.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
That's the first thing.
That's what I'm saying. You have to have depth in the context of somebody up top. Yeah. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But when they refer to depth, it's depth is from behind, really. But okay, width.
Right.
So you have to have the target up top.
Go ahead.
No, but once you have the target up top, now he has to be a post who can hold the ball, hold on to it and bring everybody else into play. You see?
Yeah.
And that's how you complete your fast break. But if you don't have anyone up top and you know, then you're dribbling from deep and you're running, and by the time you start running with that ball, unless their defense is very high, and you could drop it in space before you were behind, and I got like Connie running facing the goal. It's a different thing. But if you don't have that guy up top to hold on to it, you know, it's difficult to have penetration. Width is wide, but the depth is really what's coming from behind. And on the converse of that, anytime you're attacking, you should always maintain defensive shape. Because the principle is once a defender wins it, his job is to get to it, win it, and distribute it, and then he has this defensive shape. So Sutherland wins it, he finds his midfielder. As his midfielder goes forward, he should be sliding to that ball side. Play breaks down, he's there to step in. So that's important. The shape of your team, as you attack, you must maintain defensive shape. And as you win that ball, like they say, no more than 1 or 2 passes. So if your targets are really up front, it's a true ball into the space, right?
Yeah.
There was, some time ago, there was talk about Corny playing the middle as opposed to playing to the wing. Remember that conversation?
Yeah, well, it actually took place. I think he did it in our last game against Dominica. I think that's where the discussion came from.
Where did he play the last game?
In the middle, as a midfielder, attacking midfielder.
Yeah, but there was some talk about him playing up front. This discussion was really him playing center forward, as opposed to the wing. Center forward, as opposed to the wing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think he did it several times. I think it was more to recover, not necessarily to play the position, but more recovering some energy because of the type of work he was doing. So he would switch positions with the number 9 sometimes. At least that's what I saw. I never really spoke to the coach.
No, I got the impression that he wanted to play and the coach didn't want him to play.
Well, I'm not sure. I can't confirm that.
But the point I'm trying to make is a guy like Corny who was quick, his starting, and if you want to play him up front, that's fine. But his starting position shouldn't be on the wing. It should be in the middle. If he's starting in the middle, he has a more choice to go either side. And a guy like Corny, if he's on the center line and your opponent's fullback is high, he can go right or left. But if he starts on the wing, he's very predictable. If he starts on the wing, if he starts right wing, left back, he'll give him the outside. He has one place to go. You clap him against the line and he's done. If Corny starts in the middle of the defense, he can go either side.
I'll give you a contradicting argument, which is I can also say that from the games that I have seen him play centrally versus those on either side, he's more effective on the side. So if you look at the amount of goals that he scores coming off the wing versus playing down the middle, at least for St. Vincent and in St. Vincent, for me, I've seen him score more coming off the or attacking down the sides rather than centrally. But to be honest, I've never seen him play down the middle extensively. So probably that's another point again.
And one last thing, when with a striker, you have to play to him. You know, it's like, you know, if you notice that the new coach who took over Chelsea, the first thing he did was he played Giroud up front today, right? Lampard very seldom, he was forced to play Giroud. Giroud's the guy he wanted to trade. But he's the guy who is the best header in the league, right? And you don't create tactics to support that. You have to play to your player's strength. And that's one of the reasons why Lampard is out of a job, because he's still learning the position. Giroud has a good head of the ball. You need more wing play. It's as simple as that. With Corny, yeah, he'd be effective anyway. But when you talk about fast breaks, you come out of a corner kick. That's a lot of times fast breaks happen. He has to start in the middle so he could go either side and go from there. But yeah, you know, that's a matter of opinion. But that's the way I see it.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah.
Keep going.
All right. So these are some of coaches and their contexts in which they are looking at counter-attacking. So Alex Ferguson, his opinion was you must capitalize on the space in front of you. So obviously try to keep moving the ball forward as much as possible and exploit it. You need to play into the depth whenever possible. And my understanding of depth is the length of the pitch. So you may have a defender in the back and your number 9 who's highest up the park. The distance between them is what I consider the depth. All right. So when you're saying playing into the depth, it's the space behind the defenders or into your number 9. The next point here is quick transition is the most important aspect. Quickly restructuring to defend or to exploit the opponent with speed when the ball is within, and this is Mourinho's tactic. We know this, and that's his quote. Act quickly and effectively, avoid anything that could slow you down or slow down the play. That's Carlo Ancelotti. And based on all of these quotes here, and if you know these different coaches, these are how they basically play their counter-attacking system and what they consider. All right, so number of passes leading to a goal, the impact of the training. So 2 types of attack. Basically, you're looking at quick attack, which would look at roughly about 10 passes. Control build-up would be 15 passes and less. All right, so that's what we're looking at here. The variation between control build-up, attacking play, and attacking play is what makes a team successful. So it's varying between them, and your ability to control that is what helps your team. Players need to have a tactical understanding in order to identify the right moment and area. So for me, a prime example would be Barcelona in the context of Guardiola's era. In the earlier parts, they were able to move the ball a lot quicker. Quick, slow, and we recognize their ability to dominate the game in that context. Later on in the Guardiola era, you recognize that it was always more control, and as a result, the result kind of dried up. Similarly, with any other successful team, you recognize that they were able to find times when they were able to have control build-up, meaning 15 passes thereabouts before they get to the goal, and have some times when they are trying to penetrate quickly. But it's a matter of style and system, basically. So what basically happened was these were some of the goals as a result of this type of specific play. Decisive passes. So when we're looking at this, we're looking at crosses and short passes are the most effective ways to score, and this was back then. Even more so now, but 50% of goals are scored from a cross. 1 out of 2 are goals. The results, you need to work on speed, work on crossing and receiving the ball, work on tactics to exploit the flanks. This is just the work on the penetrating pass as well as crosses. So what we are identifying here is once you become effective at this particular part, you are more likely to get more goals. All right. Again, effective playing time. So when we talk about effective playing time, now the game is basically 90 minutes. That's the length of the game. But effective playing time is the time you actually play. All right, the time that you actually play. Now we have to cater for, remember during the game, the ball will go out, you'll have corners, you'll have injuries, you'll have substitutions, you may have the referee having a discussion. Whatever reason, the game will stop or there wouldn't be football actually playing. So what the statistics are showing here, basically, in the 90, the average effective playing time was about 55 minutes. At the end of Euro 2000, it was roughly about 68 minutes. So this would have implications on the way you train and the way you play as well. All right, so you would need players who are excellent stamina. Is required for the coach, you need to take into consideration high tempo duration session, longer or more frequent sessions. So again, just to reinforce, in 1990, you could see the average here, and it started to go up the more time, obviously here. It started off well down, and some of the rules that came in, for example, would have been the 6-second rules and adding extra time, which is at least 30 seconds for each substitution that is made. Referees try to avoid the wasting time. So, for example, the rule of passing back the ball to the goalkeeper and him holding it up or could pick it up, those are some of the things that were used to quote-unquote waste times. So the game has evolved now, and the effective time as well has changed. Yes, what error was the 50% of goals being scored from passes? So we're looking at anything before. So Mr. Cruikshank is asking what error was the 50% of goals being scored for. We're looking at the era between roughly about 1990 to 2007. That's what we're looking at now. All right. So these were the effective times. So again, once you know this, you can recognize if we are playing roughly 55 minutes of effective playing time, then we know training for 55 minutes effectively and efficiently at high intensity should be able to carry us through a 90-minute game once the effective playing time remains the same. I hope you could understand that. So us having a long 2-hour session basically won't help our players, especially if the intensity is low. So focus on that particular aspect of your training. Any questions? Any move forward? All right, so goal scoring. And again, this is just to emphasize, I know you're going to tell me about the area 14 in the chart for the field is a particular area that is of interest, but we're not going to look into that. We're going to look into some other things, not necessarily that. So 79% of goals are scored from inside the penalty area. So our practices when we're trying to do training for scoring needs to be in the penalty area, and it must be realistic and against opponents. 67% of goals are scored between the goal line and the penalty mark. So please have your training for scoring have more activity in and around that area. So as a result, work on shooting from key shooting zones. And this is quite key. Again, a lot of times our shooting drills are not realistic. We line up our players and we get them to run in and shoot. That's not necessarily training for goal scoring, but more so technique. If we're trying to train for shooting, we need to make it realistic, more game oriented, like player against player and a player shooting against pressure. But obviously, depending on what you're doing in your session and if it's a recovery session or you're trying not to have any accidents, then I could see you doing one-on-one in terms of keeper versus player and shooting as well. But try to keep your training as realistic as possible. Now, in terms of touches, number of touches per player and a goal. So what is reflected here is most goals are scored from a one-touch finish. So in your training session, try to have the players finish on the one touch. Two touch would be the next. And then persons taking 4 touches. And we could see as the touches increase, the less likely they are to score. And this is because most times the defenders are able to recover. To get them to practice that. So 80% of the goals are scored at 3 touches at most. So anything less is great. As a consequence, work on shooting from inside the penalty area after a few touches and after as short a time as possible. All right, requirements of the elite game, and we're looking at roughly about 2007, 2006, thereabouts. So anywhere about there, that's what this is referring to based on the research I was doing. The players, they needed mental strength. They had to have competitiveness, winning mentality, resistance to stress, self-control, confidence, commitment, motivation, ability to push oneself, fighting spirit, on board and focus, disciplined, desire to improve. Many fail because they are inhibited when under pressure. And this was Arsene Wenger. And in our series that we have gone through so far, we have featured Borton Ford, we have featured Botu, we have featured Tosti, and in every one of the interviews that were mentioned, these are the same words that keep coming back. And we can recognize why these players were great in their particular era, because these are some of the things you hear coming out from the conversations that they were having. All right, from a tactical understanding perspective, ability to read the game and make decisions. So timing was key in when, where, and how to get it done. The ability to adapt effectively to game situation. So whether or not we have a specific tactic as a coach or as a player, we need to be able to know when, where, and how, or adapt based on what the opponents are doing. Ability to adapt to different tactical setups and team systems during the game. Now, most of the times we only train one particular system, but we don't teach our players about other systems and how to counter-attack them, what are the strengths of the weaknesses of others. This is a key thing that we need to begin to do. We need to have versatility and a lot of discipline. Ability to play an attacking game is one of the key things as well. Ability to put the opponent under pressure in terms of time and space, which is quite. And if we recognize this, it is basically saying that the player needs to be very fit in order to always be constantly attacking, and when losing the ball, reducing the space and time that an opponent has or creating pressure on the opponent. Technical requirements from these players would be technique adapted to a game with little time and space, quality and diversity. So in training, that's how you're going to look at improving the technical requirements, creating sessions which have little time and space, but at the same time, we need to make it realistic to the game, not just small for small, and the numbers must be right as well to make it realistic. Combination of technique and physical strength would be required. Range and quality of long ball control while moving is important, so running with the ball or dribbling. Ball control and passing. A lot of the times here we look at ball control as stopping the ball, but we need to now look at ball control as your ability to manipulate the ball. So it's not necessarily stopping it, but moving it into a given position to gain an advantage. And part of the reason for this is when we're training our grassroots players and we tell them to control the ball, most times we're telling them to stop it and then pass it again. The ideal would be to get them to manipulate the ball instead of stopping it. And obviously passing is important. And I know it's a hindrance when we look at the type of field we have, but we also have to get them to practice to play the ball along the floor. The quality and range of shooting, one of our biggest issues in training is we play a lot of small goal. So obviously shooting from range or the quality of our players in terms of shooting and goal scoring will be diminished. It's something we need to look at as a country. tricks, dribbling, versatility, and position-specific skills. I think this we are okay with, but we need to improve because again, when we play small goal, we're unable to practice our penetrating passes or able to dribble into space because usually what happens is that we have a group of players by one particular goal and another set at the other goal. So in terms of penetrating passes, we struggle quite difficult. And a lot of the times, the entire team suffers, our players suffer as a result. Because in the middle of the field, we do not know how to transition the ball from one area to the other. So basically what keeps happening is with a long ball, skipping out the midfield, and a lot of the technical and tactical abilities for different positions are lost. Strength in one-on-one situations. Again, yes, please. Yes, Vicky.
Theon, what
Yep.
what is are there any particular phrases that you have seen in St. Vincent that need to change as far as when you're explaining and communicating these aspects to players that perhaps they're outdated? For example, when I grew up playing soccer here, a lot of people use the word trap.
Yeah.
And now you just mentioned the word manipulate. And now a lot of people are trying to help understand, let's change the direction of the ball. Let's control it to our target. Let's open our body and touch it. So is there something that you in particular noticed in St. Vincent that needs to change or has changed?
Well, that for me is one that stands out, obviously. And again, I just mentioned one, which was the small goal that we use. It's usually roughly, the goal is about 2 or 3, maybe two footsteps wide. So a person could stand in front of the goal and block the goal. And what usually happens is the distance between each goal is so great that the space in the middle is always free. So persons are either standing on one particular goal or they are standing at the other goal. And obviously you could see the impact that has on the particular playing style. Another thing is in coaching, I hear a lot of coaches telling the players, let's go and win the game. But in essence, when you tell a player that, what are you really saying? And are you telling them how, what is needed, what needs to happen, how do we do it? Another thing would be, and I've looked at this in other sessions, if you drink water, you're a weak player. All right, so that's one. Another one I think is when we are shooting, the intent is always to kick the ball as hard as possible. That's always the intent. And maybe we need to change in the context of looking at it in the context of not shooting, but more finishing. So when you're saying finishing, it changes the context. All right, shooting is in the context of using a gun. What is the intent? It is to strike someone, to strike the goalkeeper, to hit the goalkeeper. If we're saying finishing, we're looking at getting it into the net. All right. So these are just some things I think we need to work on. There are a few more. I can't bring any at the top of my head at the moment.
Those are good. Some of those overlap over here too. Thank you.
Yeah, those are just a few. And just to reiterate the small goal again, we usually struggle for goalkeepers as a result because nobody actually practices the position. And even those who are goalkeepers, they don't train to be goalkeepers because they also want to join in to play the small goal session. And if you look at the defending now, our defenders are now only good at seeing what is in front of them. So their body shape tends to be very poor when it comes to the game situation. Similarly, the midfielders are the persons who are playing midfield. They have so much space that the way that they turn with the ball is not effective when they would be under pressure. So when they're in the 11 versus 11, the context again is gone. If you look at it in terms of crossing and finishing, it is highly unlikely you're going to cross a ball and a guy is going to head it and score it. One touch in the goal. It's highly unlikely. So even these same things that are saying that we need, we're unable to do them because of the cultures that we have here in St. Vincent. Because our way of doing things doesn't reinforce the right habits. basically. Yeah, Vicky, anything else? Anyone else? Any other comments before I continue? And this here is quite key. Again, the ability to keep possession of the ball when under pressure. And this is a skill again that is not taught as a result of how we decide to train football. Another thing that needs to be looked at is to master tempo again. So when we look at tempo, it's basically the speed. Are we slow? Are we quick tempo? When do we do what we do basically? The ability to produce intensive physical effort, speed, power, dynamism. The ability to adapt to the intensive and repeated changes of tempo. So you're gonna need resistance, stamina, playing capacity, ability to recover quickly, skill and strength in challenging, coordination, flexibility, technique. So in order to master what is considered tempo, these are the things that you need. Now, if you recognize when we look at tempo, a team we could look at, for me, I think it's Brazil. Let me see a club that Bayern Munich is good at tempo. So their ability to change the pace at any given time at which they penetrate is quite incredible. And these are the things that they work on day to day in terms of trying to improve tempo and having their players having the ability to do well throughout the game. So the impact on training, what would need to happen in training? When we look at technique, we need to train technique in a more competitive manner. So it's not just passing without pressure, but passing under pressure, different types of ball, not just on the ground, but any which way, using different body parts, but it must be under pressure at all times. Work with opponents in match conditions. There must be a lot of intensity, high intensity, small spaces, one-on-one situations, long runs. When we say long runs, we're looking at, let's say, a 50-meter sprint. That's long in the context of football. 50 to 70 meters, that's very long. Outnumbered situation, so a 2v1 as a defender, or even you being in the attacking sense, if it's 2 of us against 1, how do we manipulate this particular situation? Under pressure, so you're constantly under pressure over and over. That will help to improve the technique. Creativity and tricks as well. So once you implement these in your training, it would impact the technique and of the particular player once you encourage these particular things. So the runs as well could be, or it's recovery runs after doing particular activities. So for example, you just dribble and you did what you need to do, you take a shot. Now we don't have the ball, we're transitioning into the defense, into our defensive third, try to get back there. That's now the long run. That's your training for technique and understanding when and where and how. You must have individual initiative. Obviously, you have to have the ability to know when, where, and how, and what you need to do when. So, coach maybe telling me I need to do a specific role, but what if the number 6 is out of position and I'm playing 4? What would then be my role? What if I'm playing 7 and my number 3 is out of position? How do I adapt? So you need to have this initiative as individual players. So impact on training again, obviously we're looking now at fitness itself. Must do long distance running. And I just explained what that would mean, more intensive technical drills, resistance to pressure and physical impact, work in outnumbered situations, increase aerobic capacity to improve recovery, develop maximum aerobic power, interval training is necessary, improve muscular power, it will be strength and speed. So these are the fitness components you want to really start to look at in order to be effective. I think you have a question. Yeah. So the statement here is individual initiative. He finds that that is the greatest challenge. I would agree with you, and I would go to say that the result of this is because of our culture. We tend to teach our people to be very introverted and to stay in your lane and not to take initiative, not to be leaders. And what I notice happening as well is persons around the football are persons who are low on esteem and confidence. So as a result, initiative is not going to be one of their things. And even in the training sessions, most of the sessions tend to be about the coach rather than being about the player, which would improve initiative and creating leaders, which would also help in that particular situation. But yes, I do agree with you on that one, Mr. Kupta.
Maybe focusing on fun a little more at the beginning to capture your attention could help motivate that, like Roland Butcher was mentioning a couple of weeks ago.
Yep, I would agree on that as well too. So get them in mentally, and from there put them to work and allow them to make mistakes, have conversations with them. It's not just about you, the coach. All right. You have to change your mindset and your outlook as it relates to coach. It's about them and not about you, because they are the ones, obviously, who are going to be on the field, who are going to have to make the decisions. Another thing that hampers the initiative of the players is that the coaches are on the side barking, not instructions, but more or less trying to play a video game. Pass the ball here, pass it there, move it there, play the long ball here, da da da. When are you going to allow them to play and take initiative in being able to make the error, learn from the error, go from the error, making a great pass, learning from it, and building on it? So it is really the leaders who are the ones who really need to change this perspective. Again, improving.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
That's what I say. Attitude comes for a lot. I mean, all these things are fine. We've got to get these guys in, and I think what would help is if you set goals and you constantly remind them of the goals and what they're looking for, what they're playing to, that will keep them focused. It's very, very important. And all the drills and everything you do, just show them how it connects, okay? How it helps them to achieve that goal. Your individual goals on a daily basis, and then there's the overall team goal. Look, World Cup qualifying. Let's keep that in the back of our heads. Okay, what does that mean? Explain it to them. Let them see the big picture. You laugh. Let them see the big picture. Okay, that's in the back of your head. Now, how do we get here? Wing play, and everything has to be connected. Everything we do, if it's connected to that goal, and they realize that has to be accomplished so we could get there, it would help. That would help tremendously.
Can I ask a question? And this is generally to anyone. How long do you think it would take for a coach to implement most of? Well, I'm not even finished as it. I probably have about 4 slides left. How much time you think a coach needs to implement most of these things? And we're gonna say our players have the capacity, so it's not novice players. How long do you think it would take? Give me some weeks, or months, or whatever you think. You have good players.
I don't think.
How long you think?
Yeah, you're talking about everything that you had up in the front end just now?
Yeah. So taking into consideration all of these things.
Yeah, but I think you have to prioritize, and you have to take it in stages. Depending on the stage.
I agree.
Right. If you just bring them together, so let's focus on fitness and a few other things. And as you progress, the appropriate goals, the appropriate things will come into play. Because you can't get everything. Sometimes you can't feed people too many things.
So that's what I'm saying. For you, realistically, how long you think it would take to basically encompass or get this in to your team? Or how much time you think you would need?
It's difficult to say.
On average, would you say 6 weeks, 8 weeks? What would you say?
No. Okay. It's difficult to say because it depends on the players and their attitudes and whatnot. But
That's
put it
what I'm
this way,
saying.
let me
We're
just
just
make it a little simple.
uh-huh.
Right. Okay. World Cup qualifying. Your World Cup qualifying starts in March, right?
Mhm.
All right.
Yep.
March. January.
Yep.
January 1st. I would like to have my team with a whole
Mhm.
plan laid out to how do we start that first
Okay.
game in March. So
Okay.
we've got like January to start with a lot of basic things,
Mhm.
right? And then you progress, and by the time you get to February, your fitness is there. Now you're focusing on tactics, you know,
Uh-huh.
and the mental has to be there from the beginning. You always must encourage them. You always
So
must remind them and always
you're
show them the big picture.
you're saying, let's say 8 weeks, we should have the team about,
Well,
let's say 80%, 80%, 80% of
well,
the capacity. 8 weeks.
you know,
Just average.
I hate to put numbers in it. Here's
No, just
another scenario I'm
no.
gonna give you.
There's a reason I'm going with, and there's a reason I'm
But
doing that.
I
So
think a lot
bear with me.
again, that has to
Bear
do
with
with the
me.
players. Okay, put it this way: if I'm a player and most of my players are coming in from playing abroad, outside, okay,
No,
a lot
that's
of
what I
stuff.
tell you. I don't give you that variable already. You have all your players, they are good players.
Right.
You have
But I'm
everything you
saying,
need. Right.
if I have them as experienced players,
Mhm.
and they come in fit from wherever they came from. No, I'm forgetting a lot of physical. No, I'm talking tactics.
No, I'm
right?
talking.
You're working on your technical as a trainer.
Here in St. Vincent. I ain't talking
In St.
about
Vincent?
professional. I ain't talking about professional
Okay.
players coming back.
So,
I'm talking
okay.
about here. Roughly how much time?
Okay. So in St. Vincent, I think you guys should listen to me. In St. Vincent, I think you should, providing
Go ahead.
you could get everybody on a regular basis, right? At least 3-4 times practice a week. Okay. I know some of the boys, fitness and all that you work on. I think January 1st is a good time to start. All right.
So 8
They would
weeks.
have had a regular
8 weeks.
Okay, about 8 weeks.
About 8 weeks.
Because that
Right. All right.
that first week, physical and a whole lot of things. That last week, you have to start tactical, and they have to play games.
All
They
right.
must play games.
All right.
Because I don't care
Good.
what I coach. If they can execute,
So you wanna
last
get
thing, if they cannot execute in any situation. Okay, go ahead. Tell me.
Go ahead, Stu.
Because I realize nobody
ahead,
making any commitment to actually pin it down as to how many weeks. For me,
difficult to do that, though,
the physical with a team, the physical part, I could pin that down. I could determine how many weeks I want to make sure I get my team up to speed for a tournament upcoming. Match fit, yeah. But I'm going to say that the tactical and the technical part of it and so on, that's an ongoing thing. Season after season, we can only get better and better as we go along. So I won't pin down the tactical and the technical to any specific. I can't do that in preparation for a season. I can do that for fitness, but season it's an ongoing. It years, and it depends on how long you with your team and the quality of players you have and all of that determines the rate at which you get team up to, top in the league.
It depends on what tactics you want to teach too. If it's your club and you're working with them year round, that's one thing. But if I'm getting players from different clubs, okay, and I specifically want to work on wing play, I specifically want to play high pressure, show them how to low pressure, transition. You don't know the level of the players you're getting in terms of those kind of tactics to execute. So that's what I'm saying. It's difficult to pin it down.
Good. So we get so here's the next question, and I need some comments. I need to hear this, and we still have a couple slides. But I like this. So what is our expectations for Mr. Mokri at the moment? The national team is 9 training. Clubs are not in training. We have games in March. What would be realistic for us to really want from Mr. Mokri? Unless I'm going to emphasize this. All the players are at home, but the players are not motivated because of extrinsic reasons. So what are we really expecting from this World Cup qualifiers coming up here? Let me hear you, based on what we just talked about. And remember, I just said we didn't start training yet. Clubs aren't training.
Well,
Let me hear you guys.
I just gotta say this. You can't let circumstances overcome you. You have to walk around that. Other teams are training. I know that for a fact. Trinidad is playing the USA on Sunday.
Okay.
And then they're gonna stay here for a week.
Okay.
They're gonna stay here for a week. So teams are training. You have to find ways. That's what I'm saying. That force big picture is the focus, and you have to show them goals. If they're focusing on something and they're looking towards it, you can motivate them to come out there and play. If I'm 17 years old and you're telling me I have a chance to play in a World Cup game, you think I stand in my bed at 6 in the morning? No, you gotta find ways to motivate the players. Otherwise, and show them the big picture. You have to, okay? We know all about the pandemic. People are doing a lot of things on Zoom.
I want to know what is realistic for our national team based on the conditions I just spoke about. I want to know what we really expect.
Garden.
Yes, sir.
Garden.
Yes, sir.
As a spectator going to any of the games in the stadium in St. Vincent, I expect us to win every game. As a spectator here.
As a spectator.
Right?
Okay.
As someone with that information you just gave in terms of the players did not training and all of that and so on, we ain't going to get anyway with that kind of preparation or lack of preparation. That's the reality.
But here's the deal though, and this is the problem I have. You have an administration that is supposed to be able to work and figure those things out. Okay, you have a country, playing for your country and have your country being represented. That's important. It is important. So is there a budget? Is there any way you could get them out? You could have gotten them out of St. Vincent somewhere. Simply have your government pull strings or whatever to get them out of there. Have them quarantined somewhere while they play games, and things could be done. We can't sit back and let situations overcome us. This is what I'm talking about. I'm writing something here in adversity.
I just want you feel some of my frustration right now. That's why I just feel. I just letting you feel what is tickling my head as it relates to my national team at the moment. So me, as Mr. Stowe said, as a spectator and I am showing up. We're going to win every game. I see. But not have any knowledge that I have. The fact that we are doing so well, it's a miracle. I'm being honest. I am being honest.
But wait, what's the job of the administration though? That's my point. You can't blame the players and the coaches.
Again, back for me tactics.
I know. But no.
The impact of trading. Tactics.
The only thing I'm gonna say is you could talk tactics and whatever you want. You can't do it in a week. You can't do it in a month when the other teams have been training. All right. I think Trinidad is looking for a practice game from you and Grenada soon. But that's when they come back from a week of being in Florida after they play US on Sunday. And not only that, that's only half the players that what's his name going to use. He's got 1 million players playing in the US, Canada, and England that he's going to bring in that are already fit. It's just a matter of how they work together. So you're really under the gun. You gotta find ways to do it. You laugh.
I agree with you.
I don't know about weeks and how weeks to be ready.
I know it's a difficult question, and I love the way you approached it, and I love the way Mr. Stowe approached it as well. But I really wanted you to recognize that, to paint the picture before I ask the other question. That is what I was trying to do. Go ahead, sir.
Do you understand why I came there looking to be something other than the coach? The coach? Because I know what it takes. I know exactly what it takes. And if you don't have it, we're not going anywhere.
Yep. So impact of training. So when we're looking at tactics, we need to work on individual technical understanding, collective technical versatility. So this again, your ability to play control, play quick, interchanging of positions, and understanding rules of function of everyone on the field. Adaptability to different systems and setup, work on versatility, rapid transition from attack to defense and vice versa. Ability to see and to be seen between different opponents. So this is basically you trying to play between the lines, or what we call playing space. All right, and then play with movement. So stance, your call, your support. How do you do that? When do you do that? Where are you supposed to do that? What is the body shape? When it's supposed to be done? All right. Again, work on set pieces. And you have to teach them to be responsible, adaptable, and take the initiative. Play without fear. Play without fear. Be responsible and adaptable.
Right, but also, Kian, that doesn't come overnight. All that thing you're talking about there, there's no way.
I'm glad you could recognize that.
No. Let me just but it's a fact. You could teach them all you want, and they could play with their friends and among inter-squad. They have to be able to do that on the actual game situation. And this is why the game is the best teacher. This is why you could teach that all you want. You got to get them out here and have them implement and execute those situations, those tactics against real competition, and competition that's better than they're going to meet in their upcoming games. That's the bottom line. So you can teach all you want, and you can keep them in St. Vincent.
If that's to be realistic, right? You have to prepare them. You have to prepare them. You have to prepare them with the game for the game.
Exactly. Yeah? Exactly. Yeah.
Again, when we're looking at players, the average height. Go ahead, so. Go ahead.
Yeah. All you were talking about the players not taking the initiative and not being leaders on the field when they're playing. Your previous slide sort of have some information related to why that is lacking, and especially in our St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The thing about it is that individual players, the players on the field do not know the individual role within the team individually, and then within different teams on the field, like defense, midfield, the collective eventually. And so because that is not right, because that is not explained to them. And as players, they would want to, they would try to do things, but because it wasn't communicated to them what is expected, they get a shout down from the coach and so on not to do it. So they start a hold back. So they're not too sure so what they should do, when, where, and so on in whatever situation. And I think that is the thing that kills the players not taking the initiative to get in to do things. That would bring a more effective playing and good result for teams. And that's an observation I have. Exactly, in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It's a matter of not knowing or wasn't taught their role or taught in different team formation, what have you, and so on, based on where they play.
Yep. Again, I agree with you again totally. So in terms of the elite player, these are some of the characteristics that are quote unquote necessary. So the average height is roughly about 181 centimeters, weight 78 kilograms. Due to max 62, 65 milliliters. Sprint speeds, you see them there. Jumping height 63 centimeters. You must have great speed of movement and running. So this is more in the context of agility, which is change of direction, along with dynamism. Technical skill, muscular power, ability to recover quickly, ability to repeatedly produce short and intense efforts, technical understanding, mental strength, and self-control. So in conclusion, the game is going to become faster with less space and less time. Quickly and effectively avoid anything that could slow you down. My gift was the ability to read the game. The very great teams can change effectively during the game. Be ready to play 60 to 70 matches per season. And if you look at the persons who made these quotes, they're quite accomplished persons from all around the world in the context of football. So obviously, the first one is talking about the ability to play the game faster, and that goes into the physical and the mental aspect of the game. Again, knowing when and where to exploit depth is another key factor in playing on the counter and changing the rhythm and tempo of the game. Players need to understand their roles and function, as was mentioned by Mr. So they must be savvy technically and tactically of how they need to do what they need to do. They need to know how to play teams in terms of whether, as was mentioned, in groups, whether it's defense, midfield, or attack, or the left side or right side, playing in their different groups and as a collective. And obviously, for this to work, teams need to play up to 60, 70 games for you to get to where the coach can actually recognize what he wants. So here, gentlemen, is just a few as to how much games you're gonna need to really be as good as you need to. All right, gentlemen and ladies, thank you for your attention. Any questions? No.
So what was your, as a player, best gift? I think you wrote it was there that said Platini, his best gift was his ability to read the game. What was your best gift?
Ability to stay calm and read the game. I think those are mine. Stay calm and read the game.
As well.
Yeah.
Well, let me just, can I just chime in, Vicky? And,
go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
I think, look, you know what it is with the Caribbean player, the biggest thing is the mental aspect of the game. They don't play enough games, and because everything you talked about, they could be taught. Everything could be taught, and those boys could learn anything that everybody has learned.
Correct.
But you have to create the environment for them, and you have to have the coaches to teach them as well, but they can learn it. So again, motivation, show them what's in it for them. Let them see a big picture. They have to have focus. If you just come into practice and you ain't sure of this, you ain't sure of that, or the coach cussing you, that's not the environment for learning. It isn't. First of all, develop relationship with them fellas. You talk to them, guys, I was a player just like you. I know you feel, boy, I wish I was still playing. This is what's in it for you. World Cup, there's Gold Cup, contracts maybe for some of you younger fellas, scholarships, motivate them. We had a 79 team that was the first team to have some big international success. Then we had the 96 team that went to Gold Cup. I want you fellas to beat those two teams. There's a different ways to motivate these guys. There's a whole lot of different ways to motivate them. Talk to them. They're players, man. We all want players and we all have dreams.
You can't carry the motivation.
We all had dreams.
You can't carry the motivation in the shop. The motivation you can't buy nothing with the motivation you're talking about.
All them fellas are children to mine,
Yeah, but here's the point. How you gonna? What's a good chance of getting something to find those children? Tell me, you're playing the sport anyway. You might as well do it so you can feed everybody. Whatever it is, I could turn it into something positive. I know that's what they're gonna tell me. Well, coach, boy, I got this and that. But guess what?
Is the reality?
Of course, it's the reality. But yes, but then remind them that what Pele came from, where Maradona came from. They had no hope either. But they saw somebody told them this could be had. And in the meantime, you have to really show them the progress. That's the other thing too. I could tell them one thing.
A lot of things to fix. A lot of things to fix.
If you can't, right. A lot of things to fix. You got to be able to send them abroad to get the exposure. A lot of things can happen. But again, it's not just the players, but everything starts on the top, And that's how it goes. I look at West Indies play 3 matches. Them fellas, some of them can't bat better than me. Seriously, they're cross batting and whatnot, but they don't. No, but they don't play enough games. And then I watch. You have a coach sitting on the side laughing. He ain't taking any notes. So them fellas make the mistakes. They come out. Nobody tell them anything. They go back to second match, same thing. Third match, same thing. There's no coaching. Whereas you got India goes to Australia with a second team, and look what it did in Australia. It's all in how you run your programs, how you set up your programs. You have to create the environment for these fellas to surface. And you need it more so in a place like St. Vincent. You know, but them boys could be good.
I agree with you on that.
You know, we're not going to see the true potential. You have to give them every chance to succeed. I want other people to agree with me. Not just you. Other people, the people who have the ability to do things.
Everybody
see it.
Everybody who is. So we have Mr. Warren Olivier, we have Mr. Ravs, so we have Mr. Deptun Kuksha. They and Mr. Alfred Grant,
let me tell you
are
something.
all in agreement with what you're saying.
Listen to me. And I did this as part of the program that I had.
Yes, we're in agreement. That is correct.
By the time, no, but we're talking hard figures here. I just want to say this. By the time the 2026 World Cup comes around, and I figured it out already, with all the raises that they get, a team that makes just the first round, and it's going to be 48 teams from 36. So we have a good, more Caribbean teams could make it. Just to get to the first 3 preliminary games, you could come home with $18 million US. $6 million per game, $18 million US. Okay, just for getting there. That's a lot of money in St. Vincent. But here's the point. Is it worth it to spend, to just invest in the fellas for the next, what is this? Really for the next 5 years, because qualifying will start the year before. Isn't it worth it, man? To just invest in the fellas, do whatever you can to help them, just to see if that could happen? If you don't do it, you'll never know. We'll never know.
Mr. Students tell me, Mr. Gordon, you're preaching to the wrong people. I'm telling you now, you're preaching
I gotta say, because I don't know, I can't. I'm a long way from thing. And if they're hearing me there, then that's good. But I can't see. I don't walk down the street and see you fellas all the time. So I have to say it now. But this is how I figure it, and it's common sense. Making investments for the next 4 or 5 years and them fellas. And who knows what the hell can happen. You just never know. You'll never know. Trinidad did it. Jamaica did it. Cuba did it. You know? There's no reason. The only difference between them and us is the opportunities that they get and the amount of games they play. That's it. Really. But, you know.
Mr. Hahn.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hahn.
Yes, sir.
You see all the things you're talking about there? If these things can really happen tomorrow, I would suggest that you take these things and prepare and get them for a group of under 10 kids, under 10 persons, aim for the under 10, the present crop of people, and from anyway 20 and above. For right now, you cannot go talk about this motivation and all of that to them and so on. They need to see $10 and cents and so on. So it's a little bit too late for those persons. Go down,
I don't think so.
Go down. Let we build it from under 10, a group. We deal with the under 10, build the thing, and put what we're supposed to put in place. So a little bit too late now for certain people.
I'm disappointed in hearing you say that. People can change. You have to pull the right strings, motivation. Them fellas in their 20s, they can change. So I'm disappointed to hear you saying that. You're writing them off and you're not giving them a chance. I don't do that.
Off, man. You ain't write them off.
I have no. Of course you are.
No.
That's what you just did.
No, what you said.
Don't be scared of failure. Okay.
No. What I understand from what he's saying. What I understand from what he's saying. If we want to implement everything that we want, we have to start from age 10. I didn't interpret it.
I'm still qualified for 26.
I didn't interpret it as him saying he's disregarding what we have now, but I'm interpreting it as
well. You weren't listening.
Well, he could correct me if that's the case. But I'm telling you what I interpret, right?
Mr. Garden, you're correct in interpreting what I'm saying. Mr. Hahn, I am not writing off anybody. I'm saying what is realistic.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You don't think it's
2026
realistic
is in the
that
next.
these guys could,
How far is 2026 from this year? How far is it?
5 years.
Now we need to put a serious program in place for 10, 15 years at least, and aim for something for some other World Cup down the road. If your aim is the World Cup, we can try now. Where you had players not training and all of that and so on. What team are we building for 2026 right now?
But that's my point. But these things should be happening.
Let's prepare the youths. The youths you got to deal with and put the necessary things in place. And a number of things that have to be put in place to actually.
But if you can't put it in place now, how are you going to put it in place for the youths? Why can't you do it now then? The same things you're talking about. Put it in place for when?
All right, sir. Good night. I see where you're going with. I see where you're going with this, eh?
No.
Election coming up again. I figure election. We gotta get a national election again. Talking football election.
Yeah, bro, I'm ready with that. All I do is coach now, but I guarantee you, 5 years is a good time. You have players. You guys just have to use them, how to motivate them, and give them the opportunity to succeed. That is just not happening. You don't know what will happen if you just invest in these players. You don't know. They're good players. I've seen them, and I could compare them to some of the other islands that I've seen too. You know? Is Grenada that better than you? Grenada qualified to World Cup. Okay. Is let me finish.
World Cup.
Is Nicaragua that much better than you? Yeah, Gold Cup. World Cup, Gold Cup, and you have 2 Nations Cup coming up. You have 2 Nations Cup and 2 Gold Cups before the next World Cup. This is what I'm talking about. Yeah, you could. It could be done. But anyway, I can't, that's my belief. If you guys...
Good session, gentlemen. Good little discussion. Again, good little discussion. Invite people to check out Jabel's page. If they want to see these information, they will be there. You can interact with them at any given time. So thanks again, gentlemen, for coming out. Thanks again to everyone who's viewing this broadcast, and see you guys next week for part 2 of our discussion on trends of the game as it has developed. Yes.
Good night. Keep the fire burning.
Mr. Stowe. Good night, Mr. Stowe. Good night.
All right, good night.
Good night, Mr. Hahn. Good night.
Good night.
All right.